At exactly 2:40 p.m. local time, a Ukrainian SU-27 Flanker skims just above the undulating farmlands of Donetsk Oblast, hugging the terrain at a nerve-shredding 500 feet. The twin engines growl in protest as the pilot wrestles turbulence, his eyes flicking between the altimeter and the iPad bolted to the cockpit. On screen, two glowing markers flash, a pair of reinforced structures in the village of Volche, housing over 100 Russian mechanized infantry. The pilot knows what they don't. In less than 2 minutes, their concrete walls will be the only defense against precision American explosives. But flying this low has consequences. Beneath the wings, custom-fitted BRU-61 racks carry 4 GBU-39B small-diameter bombs, each a marvel of American engineering awkwardly jury-rigged onto a Soviet airframe. Ukrainian ground crews had to weld custom adapter plates to make the bomb racks fit, and every bump of air now threatens to shear them loose. The turbulent ride isn't just uncomfortable, it's a threat. The vibration is so violent the wing pylons groan and parasitic drag sucks the aircraft's momentum like a siphon. The engines burn hotter, 14% more fuel than mission calculations predicted. The pilot does a quick recalculation, enough fuel for ingress, weapon release, and a bare-bones return. No reserves, no mistakes. To make matters worse, the navigation system flickers. GPS data swaps intermittently with GLONASS, drifting the bomb coordinates by up to 45 meters. At this altitude and speed, he can't recalibrate on the fly. He'll fix the targeting drift during the pop-up climb. Down below, the aging L-203 Gardenia jamming pod is working overtime. It howls static across the X-band, desperately trying to blind Russian surveillance. It's vintage Soviet tech, built in the 80s to confuse systems long since upgraded. But even primitive jamming can buy time, and every second hidden is a second closer to survival. 100 kilometers away, a Russian 96L6E cheeseboard search radar slices through the sky like a lighthouse beam. Its massive three-dimensional array has the range to see beyond the horizon, but not through hills. The pilot is betting on terrain masking, using valleys and ridges as a stealth shield. Still, every time he crests a ridge, the radar gets a brief snapshot of his presence. His SPU-15 Berioza radar warning receiver chirps with uncertainty. It can't tell if he's just being watched or if he's being hunted. The moment of truth is coming. The terrain levels out. A shallow rise ahead marks the final masking ridge. Beyond it, open sky and exposure. The SU-27 pilot yanks the stick gently, banking left into a pre-programmed climb profile. It's a calculated pop-up maneuver, sharp enough to clear the ridge, shallow enough not to bleed too much speed. As he ascends, the altimeter ticks up. 650 feet, then 800. At 1,200 feet, he breaks cover. Immediately, the cockpit lights up. The SPO-15 radar warning receiver emits a guttural bleep. Not the passive tone of distant surveillance, but the sharper, rhythmic stutter of active targeting. Somewhere out there, a Russian engagement radar is locking on. It could be a Panzer, could be a Tor, could be both. Either way, he's on the clock. The jet levels off. He doesn't need much altitude, just enough to give the bombs line of sight to the target and their internal GPS time to acquire a clean signal. The GBU-39s aren't guided by lasers or seekers. They're smart in silence. GPS IANS-driven, pre-programmed, no mid-course updates. Once released, they don't talk back. He thumbs the selector on the HUDs. All 4 bombs are hot. The iPad shows one last check. A square green confirmation box flashes briefly, overlaying the coordinates. The 2 buildings, converted schoolhouses now functioning as Russian barracks, sit tucked between civilian homes. The margin of error is razor thin. A drift of even 20 meters risks a war crime. He commits. The bomb racks kick one by one. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk. 4 SDBs drop cleanly, tails deploying into rigid cruciforms, gliding like steel falcons. The pilot doesn't wait to admire the view. He slams the stick right and nose down, diving back into the valley. Terrain masking is his only shield now, and the sky behind him is about to turn hostile. At 14,500 feet and falling, the 4 GBU-39 bombs spread out into a loose diamond formation. Their diamond-back wings lock fully extended, giving them the aerodynamics of a sailplane and the lethality of a scalpel. Each bomb calculates its own flight path using a blend of inertial data and encrypted L5 GPS signals. Hard to jam but not impossible. At 40 kilometers out, a ripple in the sky begins, invisible but deadly. From a tri-line near the village of Vishenka, a Russian R-330Z Zhital electronic warfare truck springs to life. Twin spiral antennas stretch skyward, locking onto the L-band frequency spectrum. The system doesn't need to destroy the bombs, just confuse them long enough to drift them off target. The air above becomes thick with electromagnetic noise, like a blizzard in the digital realm. Inside Bomb 2, a warning triggers, GPS drift, exceed threshold. The signal's been spoofed or jammed. Automatically, the bomb cuts reliance on GPS and reverts to its inertial guidance system. But this is where time becomes the enemy. Every second in flight without satellite correction adds distance to the error. The flight computer does what it can, comparing the last known good GPS position to its own trajectory via a Kalman filter, attempting to estimate true position in a shifting storm of false data. At 28 kilometers out, Russian radar eyes finally catch something. The operator inside a 9S-36M radar station linked to a Tor M2KM sees 4 tiny echoes dancing toward Petrovka at 400 miles per hour. The radar returns are small, barely distinguishable from flocks of birds, but they move too smoothly, too deliberately. The operator squints. Migrating geese don't fly in synchronized glide paths, and they certainly don't dive in formation. He blinks once, then keys the alarm. Across the base, klaxons scream, doors slam open, soldiers spill into courtyards, some clutching rifles, others just confusion. The base commander is already shouting into a landline, "Get Panzer online now. We have incoming precision munitions." But the system was on standby. Maintenance crew scrambles to power up the radar and warm the missile tubes. It's too late. The bombs are already beneath the minimum engagement altitude for intercept. Meanwhile, the SU-27 is already gone, carving through ravines and tree lines at treetop level, racing toward home. The pilot glances at the fuel gauge, still bleeding faster than expected. But it doesn't matter now. His job is done. The rest is physics. At just under 12 kilometers out, the GBU-39s descend through 2,000 feet. Glide paths sharpen. The electronic noise from Russian jammers starts to thin. Either by distance or by design, Bomb 3 reacquires GPS. Instantly, its flight computer nudges the tail fins, correcting its drift and angling back toward the southeast corner of the barracks. The final phase is brutal and blind. At the Russian base in Volche Yar, a pair of Panzer S-1 operators scrambled to bring the autocannon online. They never expected to be the target. They thought they were rear echelon, safe from standoff strikes. One gunner gets the turret moving just as the fire control computer registers a radar track, low and fast. Too low. Too fast. At 3 kilometer, Bomb 1 breaks the noise floor. A sharp metallic whistle that sounds like incoming artillery. Soldiers dive behind concrete slabs. One points skyward too late, sees a blur of gray streaking toward the HQ block. The explosion is instantaneous. A 250-pound warhead optimized for penetration slams through the roof, detonating 2 stories below the command office. The shock wave turns desks into shrapnel and human lungs into pulp. Bomb 2, operating solely on inertial guidance, impacts the motor pool. 117 meters off target, it rips through the roof of a steel garage, igniting fuel drums and triggering a sympathetic detonation in a BMP-2's ammo rack. The fireball punches through the garage's far wall, sending jagged chunks of armor into the adjacent latrines. Bomb 3 finds its mark with surgical cruelty. The southeast wing, converted into bunks for artillery spotters, takes the full hit. The blast sends a shockwave racing down the corridor, shredding plywood partitions and snapping steel bed frames. Dozens inside never even had time to scream. Bomb 4 misses. GPS never returned, and the inertial system overcorrected. It slams into a civilian warehouse 80 meters from the main complex. It collapses the building entirely but causes no casualties. It had been empty for weeks. Within 12 seconds, the entire compound transforms into a cratered ruin. Dust hangs in the air. Flame licks at twisted rebar. The screams of the wounded echo across concrete rubble. No one saw the plane. No one heard the launch. Only the result remains. By 3:07 p.m., thick black smoke spirals into the sky above Volche Yar. Russian medics are already digging through collapsed concrete with their bare hands. A soldier, his face caked in dust and blood, stares blankly at the burning ruins of what used to be the communications hub. The antennas are gone. The command center is a hole. Radio traffic is chaos. The surviving operators in nearby sectors are unsure what hit them. Initial reports speculate EMARS. Others say cruise missile. A few believe it was sabotage from within. No one suspects an SU-27. Not yet. Inside Russia's southern military district headquarters in Rostov, confusion reigns. Signals intelligence can't trace the launch. Missile logs are empty. There's no missile trail. And air defense crews swear they never saw the bombers. But one analyst notices a brief radar flash. A fast-moving target briefly exposed over a ridge, then gone. They flag it. Possible low-level flight, ingress. Probable Ukrainian aircraft. High risk. By 6 p.m., Maxar Technologies releases a fresh satellite image of Volche Yar. It shows a before and after contrast. One peaceful compound, one scorched ruin. The precision is unmistakable. 2 buildings are obliterated. A third partially collapsed. No civilian homes are touched. Western analysts confirm it. This was a GBU-39 strike. The bomb craters match the 17 Volche warhead profile. The angles of impact suggest a gliding approach, and more importantly, the Russian radar logs, leaked on Telegram, confirm no incoming missiles were detected. That rules out Storm Shadow or HIMARS, which leaves only one possibility: an aircraft dropping bombs from inside Ukrainian airspace. The Ukrainians don't claim it. They don't have to. By midnight, unofficial Telegram channels post cockpit footage from a GoPro strapped inside a Ukrainian flanker. The heads-up display is visible. The bomb release. The dive, the terrain masking. A caption reads Ace, for Kharkiv, for Chernihiv, for Bucha. The post goes viral. Across Ukraine, fighter pilot forms explode in pride. This was no NATO strike, no Western drone. This was a Soviet-era warbird, modernized by hand, flown by courage, and armed with American brains. A Frankenstein of desperation and brilliance. Russian channels, meanwhile, go silent. The message is clear. Nowhere is safe.